Hello and welcome back to another episode of KSP POV where we play Kerbal Space Program in first person. As you can see here, we're already on the launch pad, and if you watched the last episode, you know that we built a rocket ship to take us safely to land on the Mun and return. So that's what we're gonna do. So once again, we just jump right into the Mach 1 cockpit. This is going to be possibly the last mission that we use the Mach 1 for, because once we finish this mission, we should be getting a whole mess of science, and using that, we'll probably end up unlocking different command pods from there. We also have the Hitchhiker storage can to hold our scientists, because this mission is going to be about science. We have one contract to bring back a Munstone, and then the rest of the contracts is just to orbit the Mun. I think we have one for landing on the Mun. I don't know if we have one for landing on the Mun, but we have a contract to send back science from the surface of the Mun, so we'll be doing quite a lot. So I kind of talked through the takeoff. We're going to be just kind of cutting the takeoff and the ascent and this circularization of Kerbal. We're going to kind of do that very quickly because the majority of what we want to kind of get to and spend time on is the mission to and on the Mun. So go ahead and stage off those side boosters, and they have parachutes because we have stage recovery on. So I do end up forgetting to check the stage recovery app mod, so I don't see how much money we get back, but I'm pretty confident that because those parachutes activated, we're going to get the cost of those side boosters back, both the solid rocket boosters and the liquid fuel boosters. Okay, now we're just pushing out our periapsis, trying to get a circularization on the planet. We go ahead and stage our lower stage. For some reason, it burns up a little bit. I don't know if that was the decoupler or what, but so yeah. So now we're just get ourselves into a stable orbit. And I discard the stage that took us there. Okay, so here we are. We're now floating above the planet. We're not in danger of coming back in, so now we can start really making some moves. So go ahead and I target the Mun. And I use Astrogator for a second there. I thought about using Astrogator to plot in my maneuver, but I really don't like how it works. It always plots in two maneuvers. It never gets the maneuver right on the first try, and I know that that's kind of like a course correction thing, but I just don't know, I don't trust it. And you know, you need to have faith in your automated systems. If you're going to use them, you have to trust them. I just don't trust that one. So as you saw there, we were coming in at very high of an angle. We would have ended up hitting a polar orbit. So instead, we're just going to go here to our ascending node and just change our inclination so that way it matches the Mun, because we kind of came in at an angle when we ascended. So that's good. You don't have to only change your inclination for M.A.C.H, you know. You can change it for the Mun to just seriously just get a nice equatorial orbit. It always helps to just change your inclination. Let me go ahead and burn. There we go. Now we are on the right path to hit the Mun, so we go ahead and plot in our maneuver. And as you can see here, well, as you see now, we have a nice flat 0-degree inclination horizontal plane coming through on the equator of the Mun. So this is a handy little tip if you find yourself having to do a lot of course corrections or adding a bunch of normal or anti-normal moves to your thing. Maybe just take a second and before burning towards whatever celestial body you want, just change your inclination. It'll help a lot. Alright, so now all 5 engines fire, and we are making our way out there. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward time a little bit, because this was a relatively long burn, so we just make that quick for y'all. So it was a little bit off. The autopilot, or the flight computer, actually, put us into a crash collision course. So we're just watching that closest approach number and hitting on the retrograde burns until we get to the periapsis that we enjoy. Typically we like to go around the 20 kilometer range. So I switched back into the hitchhiker can, just take a look around real fast, adjust some of my screens and stuff, and to turn the lights off, save a little bit of energy. So we're just gonna time warp our way across that journey, because there's not really anything we can do here. But then about midway through the journey, I realized there is something we could do. We could plot in our capture burn so we don't end up flying past it. You know, that's helpful. It's always helpful. So once again, we're just time warping our way, getting there as quickly as we can. We still have TAC life support enabled, as we will for this entire series. So, you know, while we're fast forwarding time and while we're taking this long journey, we are using resources, so we got to keep that in mind. We got to make sure we don't take too large of an orbit coming back home, because if it takes too long to get to either the apoapsis or the periapsis or both, we very well may run out of life support by that point, and that's no good. So we have no electricity. There's no control in the pod. So I go take a quick look outside and I see that we are within a Kerbal eclipse. Look at that. It's kind of fun to see the time to apoapsis say infinity. You know, we're sitting there in a completely dark cabin, and the only light that we have tells us that if we miss our maneuver, we will be out there in space infinitely. So there's nothing I can really do here. I'm just at the mercy of our flight computer, at the mercy of the sun. Our solar panels can't get anything while the planet is there. But if we end up missing the Mun, if we don't circularize, which it looks like we're gonna, there we go, we would have had to just cancel the mission and bring them back home. We have enough life support that we could have done that, but then that would have been very sad for our agency. So I'm glad that we plotted in our maneuver into the flight computer while we had the chance. So now we're just going to time warp a little bit, and hopefully the sun will return. But we're going to have to go to the dark side in order to get there. And there we go. We came around the other side of the planet, or the celestial body, and we're getting the warning for low energy again, because we only just now got a little bit of it. So I'm going to go ahead and point myself retrograde. I probably could have pointed myself radial out and gotten a lot of coverage from the sun as well, but I decided to point myself retrograde to just get into preparation. As you can see here, we have a little bit of charge, but it is going up, so that's good. And I have a feeling it'll just stay up. I think our energy needs are okay for right now. So go ahead and turn the cabin lights back on. I was meaning to use this cabin for landing, maybe trying to land via this cabin, but I decided to just go for the tried and true method of having a few more screens to work with. And this camera, or this cabin, requires me to look left and right a lot more, whereas in this cabin I can kind of keep my head straight a little bit better. So now it's just, we gotta figure out a place to land. We don't really have any kind of plans. Anywhere is fine. If we can get multiple biomes, that would be excellent. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna land here right on the edge of this big crater. We're gonna aim for the center of the crater, or the lower inside of the crater. And then if we can, if we have enough fuel, and if we feel lucky, we're going to hop over to a different one. This is the Munfrog after all, so should be able to live up to its name. So here I am just burning to land. And I don't go for a very horizontal landing. There's still a little angle to it. Most efficiently is a very nice low shallow horizontal angle where you burn your suicide burn at the very last moment, so you don't use as much fuel as I did here. But by coming down a little bit higher, I feel that I can save myself. And it is in this moment, if you notice something that I forgot, and I'm kicking myself the entire time, is I forgot landing legs. I didn't put any landing legs on this craft, and the only way we're going to be able to keep ourselves upright is the fact that I have 4 engines that could potentially act as landing legs. We've got a wider base than if we just had the one rocket. So yeah, so it's always important to check everything in the building stage and really take a second to think about what you're gonna need before sending the rocket. You know, I think if I hadn't rushed it too much, hadn't been so excited to get to the moon, I would have noticed that something was missing. And we actually just unlocked some pretty good landing legs too. Like, we would have had some pretty fancy ones for this mission. You live and you learn. You live at any rate. So I'm using a little bit of M.A.C.H's landing computer to tell me when I need to burn, but I'm also going to be eyeballing it a little bit and giving the flight computer, or the M.A.C.H's computer, a little extra room. So I'm going to burn a little bit before it tells me to, just so I'm not like hovering directly above the ground when it cancels, or when it ends, and suddenly flip myself upside down because I'm locked prograde or retrograde. So now we're just coming down pretty fast, but I think we got it. And we see the edge of the crater here, so we got to be careful not to land at an angle. And then for some reason the camera outside decides to do this little maneuver where it just jumps forward, and I don't know what happened. I think possibly the camera bumped into itself, if you noticed there, because we started flipping the moment that it reached that part. So now we're spinning out of control a lot. and then we see contact on the screen, but then the game freezes up. So I'm like, oh no, we impacted, we're dead, or at least our ship is partially broken. But the weird thing is I can control things on the ship. Like if you see, I just turned that button off and I can still click things. So it's not a freezing of the computer, it's a freezing of the ship, and that's weird. So I go in here and I try to clear my input locks. That's a trick you can do if things aren't working. And then I think about reloading my save, but it's in that moment when I come back that the ship returns to its actions, and of course it is quite suboptimal. I had to just pause it for a second just to see just how bad we were doing. But as you notice, 3 of the 4 panels had broken off, and we were heading for that 4th one to be broken off. So it's safe to say that it's gone too. So we're sliding a little bit, at least from the other point of view. But we made it. We're basically landed. You know, it's not a great landing, but it could be worse. It really could be worse. You know, everyone's alive. That's good. All of our science experiments are still here. All of our engines are still here. So all we need to do is figure out how to get this behemoth upright, and then we'll go. Oh, press the wrong button on my RCS pack. So I ended up doing a little flip, a little side flip. Yeah, look at that thing. But we're on an angle. Like, it really could have been worse. It's, you know, it's good to recognize our blessings when we find them. But for now, it is, I believe this is Shepcan. Might be Herble, I can't remember. But our pilot's destined to be the first footsteps on the Mun, and the first flag planted on the Mun. It's his honor. Then we have a little bit of trouble getting back into the ship because the ladders are at a weird angle. So I just keep bumping my head against the top of it, and then I realized maybe I could just grab it from here. So I just look up a little bit and then I grab it, and there we go. Nice and easy. So now it's time to collect, do our major missions, and that's to collect the Munstone. And for that, we get our trusted Kerbal Urwise, who has a very low stupidity rate. So it's kind of fun that their name is Urwise. Yeah, Urwise comes out and takes a little posterity shot from outside the ship. But then something strange happens, and we run into a clone of ourselves who's following our movements with the RCS, but just off. It's very off. Urwise reports that to Mission Control, and they just tell her to ignore it, not to come into contact with her clone, and not to listen to anything that the clone has to say. So as we come down, we see a little formation. This was the second volcanic or impact crater, or whatever you want to call these things. This was the second one we saw, but we decided before we go too far away from the ship to take a sample of it. But it turns out we didn't know how to take samples of it, so we just hop back here to the Mission Control and upgrade our science lab. And then we also grab another mission, which is identical to one of the missions that we already have, so it's just going to be a 2-for-1 kind of thing, but basically to return science from the Mun. So she goes ahead and does the sample and gets ready to go home, and then she sees her clone again, and she remembers what the Mission Control told her, but before she could react, the clone attached itself to her. It whispered some things into her ear and then took off. She's not going to tell Mission Control about this. Just weird things happen when you're on the Mun. So, before she runs out of EVA propellant, she comes back to the ship to refill that, as well as to drop off the surface sample of that crater that she found. So yeah, we still need to get the MUN. I tried transmitting some science right there to satisfy those 2 requirements, just to get them done right now, but turns out our communication dishes won't work to transmit. So anyways, I get Urwise back out again, and we just take a look around. We see a couple specks around, and we're just gonna go look. We need that moon rock, and it seems that we're hovering above 1, hovering over 1, and that is the case. So here is our moon rock. Here is our mission, and practically the whole reason why we came to this desolate rock in the first place. Take another surface sample, and then I collect the rock. The Kerbals back at the lab are gonna go wild for this. And there we go. All that's left now to do is all the science experiments for this biome, and then we can get going. And since this mission has gone sideways, I'm not going to plan to try to hit another biome. If we had landed upright, that might have been a different story. But for now, let's just work on getting these Kerbals home. They did a hell of a job, and they deserve to rest their feet on solid ground, to live in some gravity, and to taste the Kerbal ice cream once more. So now what I decided to do is I am going to try to lift myself using my magnetometer booms. Because they are pointed in the correct way, they will save us. And with that, we're lifting up. We're getting ourselves at an angle. And then when we're ready, we hit the gas and we take off. And once again, that camera does a weird thing. It floats off of us for some reason. I don't understand it. And I don't like that it's potentially dangerous to our mission. So we point ourselves up, we got some height, and then we point ourselves at an angle. And then we eject our side boosters, and the detonation device takes care of them. Because I think we were too low. I think they would have landed back down on the MUN and possibly survived that crash. And then that would just be more trash on the MUN that we don't need. So instead we blow them up and let thousands of small pieces descend onto the MUN instead. You know, in reality, blowing up stages is not a good idea. True, you get rid of something, an object, and lower the chance of the Kessler syndrome, but you also create hundreds or thousands of more objects that could potentially rip holes in your spacecraft, because that space debris doesn't go anywhere. It's not like it just evaporates. Those tiny pieces are still in their orbits, and it can still cause damage to any kind of craft or anything. But thankfully in Kerbal, just destroying the piece is enough to clear the airways, the spaceways. And okay, anyways, once again we run low on electricity, and now there's not anything we can do about it because we have no more solar panels. We just have to live with the batteries that we have and try to get everything done that we can. So here we are replacing a maneuver at our apoapsis, because that's when you're going the slowest. So to burn retrograde at your apoapsis is the best idea to lower your periapsis. So go ahead and plot that maneuver into Flight Computer and let myself drift over to the node, and then I just fast forward time to keep myself held in position, because there's nothing we can really do now. We have our periapsis within the atmosphere. So, and there we go. That's the last of our electricity. So yeah, our periapsis is within the atmosphere. So regardless of what happens, as long as we don't explode and burn up in the atmosphere, we will be coming home. What happens next is anyone's guess. We go ahead and do some science experiments. I did mess up and waited too long to do the science experiments in space low above the mun. The ones I'm doing now are in space high. And look at this. I never really took a nice view of the Science Junior. It is the restocked Science Junior, but that's fun. It's got some crystals in it. It's got a sandwich. It's got a little squid thing. That's very interesting. But yeah, we're going to just be doing science along the way. Just try to get as much as we can from anywhere we can. And so that flashing magnetometer boom is trying to tell us that it's broken. So the one on the right is never going to be able to retract. So there we go. We escape the Mun sphere of influence and we re-enter Kerbin's. We time warp ourselves out to the maneuver node. We do some science. Do some tasty science. Once again, try to transmit it to just clear those contracts, but could not, especially since we have no electricity. I don't know what I was thinking. We have no electricity. So I turned myself, and for some reason, one of our lamps disconnects itself. I was hoping we'd get a little bit of electricity from that, but we didn't. From the flight computer, from the whatchamacallit's going off. So anyways, I get my periapsis there, and then I plot in the last burn to just really bring our apoapsis down so we don't have to keep re-entering the atmosphere on multiple passes, trying to bring ourselves back. If we get our apoapsis low enough, we'll be going slow enough that it should just bring us right on back. And this will use the last of our fuel. As you can see there in red, we are using every single last drop that we got. And I think that is pretty great. I think that kind of goes to show that we've been planning our missions a little bit better. We're not running out of fuel before we need to, but we're also not packing so much that we have to just discard it and not get any use out of it. Once again, Urwise braves the vacuum of space, climbs the ladder, and resets the experiments. Checking around, see if there's anything else to grab. There's a couple things. Those lights on the science experiments that indicate whether or not, as you can see, it's blinking, so it shows that it has a possibility of science. And then it's excuse me, then it's solid to show that the science has already been done. So those are from the mod called indicator lights, and I strongly recommend that. It shows lights, indicator lights for all sorts of things, for batteries to show when they're out of charge, for science experiments to show when they've been ran. Highly recommend it. But anyways, we're pointing ourselves back at the maneuver node, because every time our scientists or Kerbals get out and walk around on the ladder, it shifts our direction around because of that extra movement and extra weight. I guess that would be the torque added to the ship, but yeah. So it's important to kind of reorientate yourself, especially since we have no electricity. We need to start off as well as we can. But yeah, now we're already going through the atmosphere, and we plotted that maneuver at our periapsis, so we're going to be in the atmosphere by the time it actually starts going, which isn't great. But I realized I got a nice view here. I couldn't see anything in the Mach 1 cabin, and all the instruments are out, so there's literally nothing we can do. So I decided to just stay in this view and watch the flames, and just hope that we're not going to die. There's some explosions going on outside as things are being ripped off our craft. The magnetometer booms, potentially the communication dishes. I did manage to hit the descent action group while we still had electricity, so our radiators should be on and our parachutes should be armed. So all we can do is sit back and watch. Very pretty. I was really enjoying it. The sounds of the fire and the creaks of the capsule. We have another explosion right there. And now I see the angle of the flame shows me that I'm coming in sideways now, so I am expecting at any moment to die. The Kerbals have made peace with it. Their biggest regret is that they couldn't get any of the science home. Couldn't transmit it, couldn't show any of their work. And there's no electricity, so there's no communications. And Herble, it is Herble, the Kerbal. Herble and Urwise have no way of talking to each other and saying their goodbyes, saying it's a pleasure flying with you. Nothing. Everyone is just alone. But wouldn't you know it, before they even get the chance to pray to the Lords of Kerbal, the flames disappear. They just sit in darkness once again. A little bit of lights coming out, and for some reason we have the ability of turning on our cabin lights. We don't have any control over anything else. But now we can see. I turn that timer to the time to periapsis, and it tells me that we've got about 4 minutes till we hit the ground. And we even have lights in this cabin as well. I try to turn on the landing machine, but it doesn't show me anything. So the only way that I know how high we are and anything like that is this little altitude meter right here. Altimeter. And it freezes up a little bit again, and I fear that we are about to break, but then it comes back. As you see here, we're coming down, and then suddenly I hear the chute pop, and then I feel the ground landed beneath us, and we have made contact. We managed to come through the atmosphere with no electricity at all, and even turned sideways at one point. But here we are, safe at home. And look at all that science we got. Almost 800 science. We are going to be able to do so much with that. And now that we upgraded our R&D station, we have access to even more advanced technology. And it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And look at those contracts we filled. We've got a whole bunch of money from that. We've got a whole bunch of reputation, especially since we added that thing where we turn reputation into money. We got so much more. We can upgrade things, we can upgrade buildings. We've got so much to do in this next episode. I'm excited, and I hope you're excited too. But for now, this is the end of this episode. It's where I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider giving me a like, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.